This is the Herd Line News.
So as we know, Dak Prescott is still waiting for a long-term contract extension from the Cowboys. He's played well this year despite the team's 5-4 record, and Stephen Jones insists that Dak's value doesn't fluctuate on a week-to-week basis.
Full body of work, and he's doing a great job. I mean, obviously, he played one of his better games that he's ever played. And, you know, we're never going to talk about the negotiations. Everybody knows what Jerry, myself, the organization thinks about Dak, and our goal is to ultimately get this thing done.
To Dak's credit, he's pretty much hushed the contract conversation throughout the season. I think if this was anybody else, we would be talking about it every single day.
He doesn't let us. He doesn't let us.
And that's been pleasant because obviously, I mean, talking about people's money is a bit obnoxious. It's the worst, but it is part of sports, and it matters because what they end up giving Dak or what, say, they end up giving Patrick Mahomes will affect the future of the franchise because that is what it's all coming down to in a salary cap league. So this is the situation is a bit strange, though, to me. Like, if it's coming down to a couple $1 million, do you not just get it done?
I think you get it done. I mean, I think Jerry's put his arm around him more than once and said, you're a Cowboy for life. We'll get it done. And now you're in the season. You don't want to talk about it. And again, I think a lot of this credit goes to Dak. Dak's just not giving us an opportunity. I mean, seriously, I think somebody asked about week 2, and he's like, you know, we got a big game coming up.
We're focusing on the game.
So, again, he's a grown-up. At this point, if you're doubting whether Dak should be paid at this point, there's nothing I can do. I can't. I mean, listen, you all fall in love with Lamar Jackson after 15 games. Dak's been winning this. He's been winning 11 games now for 4 years.
I don't understand if it's the Cowboys because he plays for the Cowboys. I don't know if it's Ezekiel Elliott.
You know what? There's a lot about Dak that he's a grinder, and we love spectacular. We don't. By the way, Brady's winning Super Bowls. Well, he's a system guy. Aaron Rodgers has one. He's amazing. A lot of Dak's strengths are hidden: work ethic, leadership, grinder, head down, toughness. That stuff. Mahomes is throwing the ball down the field, not looking.
But it just, to me, it comes down to: are you winning or are you losing?
And after, I mean, bad quarterbacks go on winning streaks, but after
this is not a winning streak.
Yeah, it's 4 years of it.
Like it's like, when does that start to matter, whether you're winning games or not? So Lamar Jackson obviously has played better than anyone thought he would this year, and his coach John Harbaugh has definitely noticed, along with the rest of us. And during his big win over the Bengals on Sunday, Harbaugh told his quarterback, "You changed the game, man. You know how many little kids in this country are going to be wearing number 8 playing quarterback for the next 20 years?" And Lamar responded, "I can't wait to see it when I get older, but right now I got to get to the Super Bowl." It's a really nice exchange. Hopefully we can eventually get the video later. But he also says, Harbaugh is kind of leaning over and he's like, talking about the team. And he's like, that's why they love you. And Lamar goes, "I love you too, coach." It's like this really sweet interaction. But I do want to give Harbaugh a lot of credit because we don't talk about him a lot.
Ever.
Yes, really ever. And he's in the top 5 coaches in this league. And no matter what goes on with the Ravens, they're always competitive. They're always a functional organization.
By the way, he's Pete Carroll. He's got a Super Bowl. Both of them have gone to Foxborough and won.
Right.
I mean, it's like... And both are an expert, and he was a special teams guru, Pete a defensive guy. If you look at off a bye, I think he's got a better winning percentage than Pete. The difference is Pete has a brand. Pete Carroll, USC. Pete Carroll's got, even my wife last night, she's like, boy, he really looks good for his age. Pete's a little bit of a rock star, where Harbaugh's the lesser known of the Harbaugh brothers.
Yeah, yes. And I think it's a little bit of the Ravens brand, too. Like, the Ravens brand is just always about what's on the field and, Ray Lewis. And it's just like, it's still a very exciting team and a very discussable team, but we don't really ever talk about the coach.
And they're in the division with the biggest mess in the league, generally Cleveland, and the second biggest brand of the Cowboys, Pittsburgh.
Right.
They get lost a little bit in that.
Yeah, and I do think what ends up happening with Lamar Jackson will be a big credit to Harbaugh's legacy there.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
with all the questions that they had about Lamar Jackson coming into the league and now the way he's playing now and the success that he's having, and really you can see the step up in development from Lamar Jackson from this year to last year. And not obviously Lamar gets he put in the work, but they deserve credit for
Ask yourself this. We all want, I hear these stories. Lamar, this is terrible that he fell in the first round. You know who else fell in the first round? Aaron Rodgers, but he ended up with Green Bay.
Right.
Big Ben, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. When you don't go top 4, you generally go to a better owner a better staff. Look at all these legends in the game. I mean, not like Peyton Manning was lucky. He goes to Indy and he gets a Hall of Fame general manager, and he gets Tony Dungy.
Right.
Okay, most of these top 4 guys, you go to bad owners, bad staffs, and 3-13 rosters.
Yeah, that's how they got to the top of the draft. Finally, speaking of all of those things you just mentioned, Knicks coach David Fizdale is in the second year of a 4-year contract, but it's looking like he won't be finishing that deal.
Embarrassing.
According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Knicks front office has started laying the groundwork to fire Fizdale. Team president Steve Mills has reportedly worked to convince owner James Dolan that the current roster is good enough to compete, but just isn't being coached well enough.
Who said that?
The president of the team.
Thinks this
Steve
is good
Mills.
enough to compete against Milwaukee and Boston and Toronto?
We're going to have Michael Rappaport on a little bit later, who I'm sure will have plenty to say about this. This is a disaster, but it's not David Fizdale's fault.
No, timeout. The East is weaker than the West.
Yes.
In the West, this is a 27-win team max. They may win 31 in the East. They go look at Boston's roster. You get to about 9 guys, and you're like, then there's a guy you're not sure can play. They got 2 guys that can play.
It's nonsense to assume that this is David Fizdale's fault. First of all, that you can only win with the talent that you have, and especially in the NBA. I mean, Cleveland is no better example of that. You're in the NBA Finals, and then you can't make the playoffs. Like you can only win with the talent that you have. Doesn't matter how great of a coach you are. And when you're in a dysfunctional organization like the New York Knicks, like let's just say it. Like we all know what the issue here.
James Dolan.
It's James Dolan.
So
it doesn't matter who you put into that spot. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter who the president is or the general manager. This is what you're going to have every single time.
By the way,
because this is the environment he's created. The only way to fix the New York Knicks would be to just completely start over in every facet. Like David Fizdale is not the issue here. He's very well respected around the NBA. Players love him. It's not David Fizdale's fault that he has no control over the roster.
By the way, Kevin Durant didn't choose the Knicks, right? And what did he say? The Knicks aren't cool. It wasn't about David Fizdale. Their brand now is just an overrated, diluted, messy brand.
It's a shame. It really is.
Because New York basketball fans are crazy good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else to say. It's just a shame.
Yeah, Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line
You know,
News.
I was watching last night as Joy was talking about, and Stephen Jones is like, listen, we're going to pay Dak. It doesn't fluctuate, you know, young quarterbacks especially. And I still consider Dak is moving out of the young quarterback space, but I would say I'd move him out of it next year. But I still consider Dak, I mean, when you watched him Sunday,